Have you ever witnessed a crime? In this day and age, it's no surprise that more and more people are claiming they have, with the total number of crimes increasing to a shocking 5.8 million a year across England and Wales, bearing in mind this total population is about 70 million. Now, with these numbers, we'd obviously get a lot of witnesses, people who can report it to the police. But there's a huge problem with this and can lead to some of the most depressing stories of all time. Just like the case of Kirk Bloodsworth, who was sentenced to death through witness errors, however thankfully exonerated with DNA testing. A lot of psychological studies have found that in most circumstances, witnesses are simply just wrong. Testimonies are full of flaws, and perhaps even worse is that you can literally alter what a witness will say just by changing a few words in your question. No one is really talking about it, but it's potentially contributing to the worsening crime levels, and it's leaving us without room for improvement. So let's go over pretty much everything wrong with the idea of witness testimonies. And wow, there's a lot to go through. I want you to watch this scene of a car crash. Now, don't worry, no one was injured in the making of it. What speed do you think the car was travelling though when it smashed straight into the other car? Have you got your answer? Perfect. Now, watch the second accident. Again, tell me, what speed was this car going upon making the contact? Leave your answers in the comments below. You might be surprised to learn that the second car was going much faster than the car crash I showed you initially. And if you got psychologid, you may have lined up with what Loftus and Palmer saw in their famous experiment all the way back in 1974. Much like you've just done, they showed participants a car crash video, and depending on which group they were in, asked them, at what speed was the car going when it smashed, collided, bumped, hit, and contacted? Now, as you'd expect, based on the words Loftus and Palmer used, the average rated miles per hour changed significantly with the results displayed on screen. Merely saying smashed instead of contacted had participants rate the collision 9 miles per hour faster, which may not seem a lot, but if you remember that this is round about 33% increase in speed, it is actually quite a lot. In the terms of being a witness, it shows that it's true that simply altering the words in a question can change what the witness of an incident perceives. Now, obviously on this channel, we love a bit of nuance. The experiment by Loftus and Palmer, whilst good, does lack a bit of validity since the sample was only students and only 45 of them at that, so it could just be to chance. But in another replication, using a lot more, participants were asked to rate the speed at which hockey players were skating upon a goal being described as a contact, a bump, or a smash, either on commentary or written. Written surprisingly had no change, but again, those who heard the differing words on commentary thought much different. All in all, it further shows one of the deep problems of witness testimonies that we refer to as misinformation. And unfortunately, misinformation doesn't quite just end there. So far, what we've covered is a type of leading question in the category of misinformation. But there's generally another type which can distort a witness statement even more. Watch the first crash again. While you do so, how are you today? Now, at the start beside the silver car, there was also a blue car. But tell me, was this going faster or slower than our silver car? It was going slower, and it also wasn't blue. But in most cases, as Loftus, Miller and Burns found in 1978, by asking participants deliberately misleading questions to see if they would notice the errors, well, they don't. Did you? Did you think it was blue? In their study, they were asked how far was the car travelling when it went past the yield sign, but there never was a yield sign, which very few actually picked up on, distorting their answers. This is called the misinformation effect, and it's believed that it contaminates a witness's memory, even if it's already set in stone hours after. At the moment, there are hundreds of studies suggesting memory can be contaminated by erroneous information. It leads people to incorrectly remember everything from small but crucial details to, in some studies, even imagining the presence of something as large as a building. With misinformation, young adults are often thought as pretty susceptible. But in fact, it tends to be children and older adults who are afflicted more by misinformation, as found by Ballard. This can be even more apparent when there are more than one witness present at the scene of the crime. With the post-discussion, all it takes is one person to have an erroneous result, and this can therefore just have it spread like wildfire. Even when this real-life situation was replicated in a laboratory, with participants watching the same film albeit with different glasses distorting what they see, such leading questions involved made it so that following discussion with co-witnesses, accuracy levels of the account of the crime dropped significantly. So now we not only have different words conflicting testimonies, but also misinformation and just other people being around you in general. So what else afflicts it? The following problem tends to occur more on a personal level with the witness themselves and less like it would of a bystander. If you look at these crimes on screen, which would you think would be the one most likely to have people remember it accurately? If you said the middle one, congratulations, you're right. But why? Well, a massive factor in determining eyewitness accuracy is the amount of anxiety someone displays during the interaction. If, say, either a sweet, innocent person or a thief pulls a gun on you, you're actually less likely to remember this accurately than a general, what we call mid-level medium incident. In the former, your attention is not acquired onto the target, making it less likely you really care enough to even mentally register what's happening. If you're the victim of, say, an intense break-in, it's the converse. Your anxiety will be perhaps so high, focused directly on the weapon, that you instead can't remember anything as your brain is diverting resources into simply surviving. When it's medium, you have enough brain power to stay engaged on the incident, taking noticeable details inside. This is called the Yerkes-Dodson effect, and this is another reason why psychology hates witness testimonies. When it was put to a test, participants were asked to see a fake scene, they were naive participants, of someone causing a disturbance with either a pen or a weapon. Recall dropped from 49% to a mere 34%. But even if a successful lineup was constructed, participants still become weak in answering the correct suspect. It's kind of obvious, but poor visual conditions of the crime are a crucial factor, but also as the police spending too little time identifying or even too much delay between witnessing and actually identifying. As we've already gone over, memory is highly susceptible to interference and decay. But potentially even more strange is that, as discovered by Bornstein in 2012, when participants are asked to point out a witness of an artificial crime, they perform significantly worse in correctly identifying when the assailant is of another race. A white person will be able to identify another white person significantly better than someone of another race, which, when we're living in an amazingly diverse world as we are now, becomes somewhat of a problem and brings us to our next point. I suppose that one of the last main key issues with witness testimonies is, as already hinted at, bias. As we've said, memory is highly susceptible to change, and just because it might be wrong doesn't make it any less memorable. If you're convinced you set your car keys down in a certain place, but you actually didn't, it becomes very hard to remember where you actually did leave them because this fake memory just seems so real, doesn't it? Now, our brains tend to rely on pattern recognition through what we call a schema. If every day you get mugged outside of your house by an evil baby, you'd assume that should your vision be blurry one day leaving your house, but you still get mugged, it was the evil baby. This is quite similar to Occam's razor, in which the most likely explanation is the one we use, a crucial notion in philosophy. So we've clearly a lot of issues here, but what are we actually doing to combat it? Well, police have developed a new form of interview when assessing a witness's account. For example, we used to have the standard interview, which consisted of closed, quick-fire questions with guesswork allowed a bit in between. In the new cognitive interview, there are primarily open-ended questions and anxiety is a focus of reduction. Key principles are often used, such as changing the perspective and reversing the order for the witness to try and filter out all the unnecessary information plaguing the mind. Even more so, police lineups have been targeted for improvement, now with the focus around making sure the witness knows that there is a chance the suspect isn't even present to reduce anxiety, and to also make every person standing at least look like what the witness described and not just a suspect as thought of by the police and the police alone. Witness testimonies aren't perfect, no, but are they better than having a constantly monitored police state so that every crime under the sun can be recorded? Well, that's probably a question for another time. We've seen that first-hand innocent people get locked up for crimes they didn't commit. So all we can do is hope that witness accuracy does improve whilst the converse not exceeding our boundaries of privacy. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you don't, well, the evil baby's coming. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It's free and it really helps me out. See you next time.